Education, training, and development. That is why we have removed all fees for every Jamaican accessing training through the Heart NSTA Trust. So, whatever you desire training in, food and hospitality, beauty and cosmetology, housekeeping and hotel management, welding, carpentry, masonry, or any of the dozens of programs Heart offers, you can enroll completely free and change your life. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Most Jamaicans will tell you corruption in politics is deep-rooted, and I just saw it set, and nothing can do about that. But actually, there is, and another 152 countries are doing it. It's called asset declaration, and it works best where citizens themselves understand it and help to ensure the law is enforced. Corruption happens when public officials abuse their power to benefit themselves, family, or associates. Jamaica's Integrity Commission Act was designed to prevent corruption. And here are 5 things you should know. 1. Under this law, every year MPs and senators must report what they earn, own, and owe. And if they don't, they'll be sanctioned. 2. Their report must include the same kind of information for their wife or husband and children. 3. If they get a gift worth more than $100,000 from anyone who's not family, they must declare it. 4. A summary of the declarations of our Prime Minister and opposition leader must be published where the public can read it. 5. Parliamentarians can now be prosecuted by the Integrity Commission. They can be fined up to $2 million or serve up to 2 years in prison if they don't file their declaration or if they give false information, and $500,000 for not filing on time or ignoring requests for information. Unfortunately, our parliamentarians made changes that prevent the public from knowing when they've broken the law or when they're being investigated. We really need to change that. Visit jampja.org to find out more about the act and to track if your MP is obeying this law. If they're not, JAMP's MP Tracker will help you write, tweet, or call your MP. Ask them, you submit your declaration yet? The Integrity Commission clear you? Let's help the Parliament stay honest. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.
Put germs on our manners with these. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Always wash your...
Hurricane Melissa and the work that is being done. With me today I have Minister Vaz, who's the chair of the Recovery Subcommittee of Cabinet. He co-chairs that with Minister Desmond McKenzie, who I think will join us a little bit later. We also have Minister Matthew Samuda with us, our Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change. We also have some other individuals who will join us a little bit later. We are going to have the Honourable Olivia Babsy-Grange, our Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, and the Honourable Robert Nesta Morgan will also join us. I think we are going to be also joined by the Honourable Kerencia Morrison, the State Minister in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. And I have to acknowledge my Permanent Secretary, Dr. Kassan Troop, and the Chief Education Officer, who are both here. And I also want to acknowledge those who are close to God, who are in the audience today, who have come to support us and lift us up in this moment. And so with us today, we have 2 of the most, wonderful people you can find, Bishop Harold Blair and Bishop Christine Bengucci from the Jamaica Council of Churches. Support staff from many ministries are here too. We have the head of the JPS with us here too, Hugh Grant, and he's going to be speaking to you. We have many members of the media here with us today, and again, to Jamaicans watching at home and abroad, good afternoon to you. I know the pictures and the images that we're all seeing are really, really, really heart-wrenching. And there are so many people who are feeling the pain. If we feel it deeply, I think all of Jamaica is going through this period of mourning and this period of pain. And that's why I'm very happy that Bishop Blair has said he will pray for the country at the end of this press conference, because we need prayers. God has always taken us through, and God will always take us through. And so we have to rest on God, and that's the beauty of this country. It's a country that believes deeply in God, and that God will take us through. And yesterday when I got a chance to go around, I saw that, and I saw the resilience of the Jamaican people. And that's why I say now is not a time for politics. Now is a time for us to come together as Jamaicans and to do what we need to do to support each other. And I've seen that being done. I've seen Jamaicans across the country doing what they have to do in order to support their brothers and sisters. That is the Jamaican way, and that's the Jamaican approach that we will take forward. I'll give you a few updates at the beginning, and one of them is in relation to our schools. Many of our schools sustained a lot of damage, significant damage. And one of the things when we're talking about Hurricane Melissa and its impact is that it did not affect only a few areas. It's really across the country. So you have areas in the eastern part of Jamaica that have been affected. You have others who we don't talk about a lot. We don't talk about Clarendon and the damage in Clarendon very much. We don't talk about even parts of St. Catherine. We don't talk about Manchester and the issues in Manchester. We need to talk more about Trelawney too and the impact there. So it's been all over the place that we have an impact. And we have to provide support to everybody all over the country. It doesn't matter where they are from. And so that's very, very important. And yesterday I got to see two of our schools. One was in Manchester. One was in St. Elizabeth. I went to Homewood Technical High School first, where they had tremendous damage. And I'm expecting this damage to be the same across much of Western Jamaica. And at Homewood, one of the things that left me feeling so good was that I saw the teachers out. I saw the principals there on a Sunday. They were there trying to do their best to rehabilitate the school, because they said they have so many students who are from the West and that they need to make sure that they provide space for them. So they were primarily focused on the dorms because they want to bring in children from Western Jamaica. And so, you know, they don't have electricity. They don't have any water. But they were there on Sunday because they love these children so much. And we have to salute them and thank them for their service to Jamaica. I then went to St. Elizabeth Technical High School. And there we've seen the pictures of the damage. When you go into the fifth form area on a 3-story block, when you look up, you see the sky. When you look out, you see the entire field. And there are no walls, there are no windows, there is nothing. That's tremendous damage. And again, on Sunday, I saw members of the board. I saw teachers, many teachers out. And what did they say to me yesterday that made me feel good about being a Jamaican? They said that they were trying to get water from their well because they want to be able to give water to the rest of the community that did not have water. This is a school that was decimated, significant damage. And that's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about, how do I get water to the rest of the community? They're trying to get generators, to get freezers up to help the rest of the community also. They asked for Starlink because they said then everybody in the community can come and use ours. They saw themselves as central to the community getting back up. And so I salute them. I salute them because I know what they're going through at home. It is difficult times for them. And I could see the pain in their faces too, but they were doing the best that they could do. I also saw one of the teachers who said that her role is to go around. If she hasn't heard from a student, she goes and she visits the home. And so she really knew a lot of the marooned areas because she was going around visiting and taking packages Because Jamaicans need to realize, we talk about it, but we don't necessarily see it. We have many children in food insecure homes. They eat when they go to school. The PATH program in school is central to their nutrition. And so that school understood it, and they said, you know, they're not here, but I'm going to find them and I'm going to help them. And that's the Jamaican spirit. That's the Jamaican spirit. So on a Sunday morning, I was looking at them and I said, the Spirit of God is in you. It was clear in what they were doing. And so we have a lot of damage in our schools. We're going to have to figure out how we do it, how we get schools back up in the West. It's going to be innovative. We may have to use tents. We may have to use other innovative ways of getting schools back, but we'll figure it out. We always have as a country. I remember after Hurricane Gilbert in 1988, I went to school in the hall. They put up some little partitions, and that's what we did for many months. We're going to figure it out on school, and we have a committee that will be working through that. In terms of the reopening of schools, as I drove around today, I saw some schools open, some weren't open. The ministry has said very clearly that the decision is decentralized. So the boards and the principals make the decision based on local conditions. If you don't have water, you can't open school. That's a minimum. You have to have water to open schools. But then there may be other issues in the community, maybe issues with the teachers and their ability to get in. And so all of that is taken into consideration, and the school board and the principal makes that decision working with the regional teams in the Ministry of Education. So we've decentralized that. I cannot stay in the ministry, the PS can't stay in the ministry and say that your school must open. We can't do that. But we do encourage schools, if you're able to, let's do it. The psychologists have made it clear. After a disaster, the quicker children get back to their routine is the better it is for their mental health. It's also the case for all of us. They actually say that, you know, the quicker we move through this grief is the better it is for us in the long run. But there is this sense of national trauma. And I know you're going to ask me later about the JTA president, so I'll just answer now about psychosocial support for our teachers. And I think the entire country needs psychosocial support. I think we're all going through collective trauma. I see it everywhere you go, you see it. And we have to think about that as a country, and I know the church is going to have to be very important in providing that kind of support to the entire country. And so in our ministry already, we have a group of over 30 psychiatrists and psychologists that we have available to our education system. So we have a system in place for those who need help. And many people don't necessarily want to do it collectively. They may want to do it individually, and the Ministry of Education pays for that. And this is not something new. This is something we've had for a while. And so we say we already have these avenues available, and we want our teachers to make use of it, because we know, like the entire Jamaica is going through trauma. I saw a police officer yesterday. She worked all the way through the hurricane and is still working. She hasn't taken a day off. And she was talking about how much pain she's feeling, but she has to continue. And I heard that too from the nurses that have been going through the hurricane and after under very, very difficult circumstances. We have to support everybody. Everybody is going through that mental strain, and I'm very happy that my ministry is leading the way in a program that is very accessible to all of our teachers, free of cost. We take up the bill. And it also is available to parents and children. Children feel the trauma too. And so it's available to them. And we also have to remember, some people won't feel the trauma until 3 months' time or 6 months' time. They may not be feeling it right now. And so we have that system available to us. I spoke about reopening of schools more broadly. Obviously, in Western Jamaica, that's a unique situation. I'm very heartened that some principals are looking at how they could find space in their schools to facilitate children from Western Jamaica to come in. The ministry will continue to work with those schools to facilitate that. It's early days, and we're thinking it through, and they're working it through. And so we'll come back to you on that. We believe in partnership and everybody being on board, and that's why on the weekend, I spent some time trying to reach out to some of our stakeholders. I spoke to Damian Crawford, the opposition spokesperson. We had a long conversation about what reopening could look like, what the new school system could look like. And that was very productive. I also did speak on Thursday to President Malava, president of the JTA, and we had discussed the opening of school approach, which was leaving it to the schools and letting the school community decide based on their local conditions. So conversations have been had, including with the president of the Principals Association. And so tomorrow we continue that spirit of collaboration, even if people don't want to say that they're being consulted. We continue in that spirit. In the Ministry of Education, and I know this administration, we believe in collaboration. And we actively try to get collaboration. And I know often people don't admit to the calls, and, you know, we can't do anything about it, right? All we can do is focus on ourselves and know that we are acting with integrity. And so tomorrow we'll meet with the JTA, the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, the Association of Principals and Vice Principals, the Jamaica Independent Schools Association, the National Parent Teachers Association, the National Secondary Student Council, the Jamaica Prefect Association, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, the Jamaica Association of Chairmen of Secondary Schools, and the Ecumenical Group, and the Jamaica Union of Churches. So we're also going to be meeting with the churches that do such a fantastic job running our schools. Now, if that's not broad partnership, I don't know what is. And so tomorrow we'll be having that meeting where we start the process of looking at what it looks like, especially for Western Jamaica and for those in the East that have a lot of damage. How do we prevent the learning losses that we saw in COVID? What can we do in order to do things better than before? All right, so that's on schools. As I said, again, we open based on local conditions. The board and the principal makes that decision and communicates it to the ministry and to the school community so they know what is happening. All right, just two other quick updates. I am asked all the time about the death toll, and this is the thing that breaks my heart the most, because I know how difficult it is to see or to hear of the death of a loved one. And so I just confirmed the death toll, and I can tell you it is going to change in the coming days. But the official death toll as we speak is now 32, but I will say that there are 8 other cases that are unconfirmed that the police and the JDF are now working to verify. So we do expect that number to increase. And so we'll give you another total tomorrow. And I don't like to say total because every single person is a life. They had a family, they had a future ahead of them. It is really very painful, and I know so many families are feeling that pain, and I feel all of Jamaica, every additional person added to that list, I know we all feel it, and we feel it deeply. And so we'll keep telling you the numbers and giving you the latest numbers, and just know that, you know, we are praying for everyone. We're praying for all these families. It's not an easy time for them. In terms of the housing assistance program, I see that on WhatsApp especially, there's a lot of things going around about a housing assistance program. Rest assured that the government of Jamaica is going to have a housing assistance program, but what you are seeing is the one from Hurricane Beryl last year. That's not the current one. The current one is being worked out. When you hear me or the Prime Minister or one of the ministers announce it, that's when it is real. But rest assured, like we did with Hurricane Beryl, where we had cash grants to help people to get back on their feet and to reconstruct their homes, there will be something this year. And it will obviously be on a larger scale than what we had with Hurricane Beryl, given the scale of Melissa. So give us a little time to finalize that, finalize the numbers, what it will look like, how you will get access to it. There will be a program, but what you see on WhatsApp is not the program. So just give us a little bit more time for that. All right, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to go to Minister Vaz, who has been asked to co-chair the subcommittee of cabinet that is dealing with the recovery efforts, to give his update. Minister Vaz?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, ministers, permanent secretaries, Jamaica, and the diaspora. So again, I want to update the nation on where we are and assure you once again that restoration is moving steadily forward. Digicel has restored 46% of its mobile sites, with 86% of fixed networks and 75% of business connections now back online. Service was restored in Santa Cruz, Falmouth, Spurtree, Bevan, and Rose Hall within the past 24 hours. I don't need to tell you how huge that is in terms of getting connectivity in those areas. Over the next 2 days, the focus will be on restoring service from Falmouth to Montego Bay, then Montego Bay to Negril. Work is also ongoing in Portmore, Spanish Town, and St. Thomas. Approximately 64% of Flow's fixed sites are now operational, with 40% of customers reconnected, mainly the urban areas where the power has been restored. Work continues to bring service back in to more affected western and southern parishes. For mobile network, 37% of our sites are up, reaching about 78% of mobile customers. Repairs are focused on the hardest hit parishes, including St. Anne, Hanover, and St. Elizabeth, where several towers were damaged. Neptune Communications, working with Marlink USA, is replacing and relocating damaged satellite units to restore connectivity where it is available. Additional satellite kits are arriving this week to expand coverage. Over the past 48 hours, additional Starlink kits were allocated to organizations providing essential assistance to Jamaica impacted by Melissa. I want us to stop again to thank Starlink, who have a team, an emergency response team, stationed in Jamaica, and are helping to coordinate the Starlink installations. So again, a charitable organization brought 200 mobile Starlink, and Starlink gave the government of Jamaica 400 residential. We are using those residential / commercial. All 400 will be allocated out to government agencies and NGOs by end of day tomorrow. Bearing in mind, we just received them on Friday. So we are allocating them according to specifications and needs of the hardest hit parishes. So ODPEM and Ministry of Labor and Social Security would have gotten today, the fire brigade would have gotten today, and a lot of other essential services, too much to name. The Ministry of Health, in close coordination with United Nations Children's Fund, is working to restore connectivity to major hospitals and community health centers. Jamaican government, the Jamaica Red Cross, and international NGOs are also using connectivity provided by Starlink to distribute food, water, and sanitation supplies, basic household items, and children's activity kits. The Starlink devices have been used to establish connectivity for community Wi-Fi points. So remember, we have hundreds of community Wi-Fi sites that were put in by the Universal Service Fund, which falls under my ministry. So we're working with Starlink now to get those back up so that communities, especially remote communities, will have community Wi-Fi to be able to communicate with their families, etc. So to close on Starlink, I today distributed between today and tomorrow before Parliament starts. All the members of Parliament in the affected areas will get a mobile Starlink. All the mayors will get a mobile Starlink. And obviously, the leader of the opposition will get a mobile Starlink, and several others. We only have a few, 33 that we have distributed today, but we're hoping by end of week they will get. So the focus and emphasis is on those hardest hit parishes. Sorry, clarification. The mayors in the hardest hit parishes who do not have already Starlink, and the municipal corporations will get Starlink to operate as they are the emergency response. Municipal corporation is the emergency response for the parish. The Jamaica Defense Force and Jamaica Constabulary Force also have utilized Starlink to coordinate humanitarian logistical operations and provide missions. Finally, Starlink has also employed to restore cell services to some areas. I indicate the ATMs. We have gotten lists from the Jamaica Bankers Association. We're working with them through Starlink to connect the ATMs in those affected areas, and we expect to get at least 10 of them up this week. So we are ticking the boxes of all of the essential services that are going to be required. JPS, I leave that for the president of JPS to make a presentation. He made a presentation to Cabinet this morning, for which they will be called to come to Cabinet every week to give an update to Cabinet starting today, and also hopefully after today, when he speaks, the people of Jamaica will get more information flow on a regular basis on the recovery efforts of Starlink. We expect that, JPS, we expect that tomorrow hopefully will be the last flight by the JDF that I have arranged to give them a final look at the damage to the transmission lines. So hopefully, with that being done, we should be in a position to get a full assessment as the government, and then the people of Jamaica can start to get the answers that they are so anxious to hear, based on the frustration level of knowing that you live in a community that has minimal damage and yet still you don't have light. But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. It's based on the damage that has taken place. So I'll also ask the JPS to attend on press conferences held by the government to give updates ongoing until we know exactly where we are. Petrojam, important. The refinery sustained no major damage, as we know. It has adjusted its opening hours to 6 p.m. to allow refueling of tankers, trucks for distribution to Western Jamaica. And since Thursday, October 30th, over 400 tanker trucks have been loaded destined for all parts of Jamaica, including the hardest hit parishes. And as the roads are clear by the National Works Agency, the tanker drivers will transport the much needed resource. So there is no need to panic buy or store excess fuel. We have adequate fuel. Another one that is important is aviation fuel, because we have a lot of assets that are going to be traversing the skies, and we have more coming. So we have between 75 and 80% capacity across our international airports, and we are coordinating with our international partners such as Grey Bull Rescue and the Fuel Relief Fund to support distribution of energy fuel for humanitarian efforts. Rubis has a total of 41 open service stations across the island, which is 82% of their network. 7 stations remain closed. 2 have a status to be confirmed, but due to communication challenges, so they also have put in extra staff and resources to reopen remaining stations and carry out maintenance in St. James. The Westgate service station is now open 24 hours a day to meet the demands. I had a meeting with them last week. and we have set up a system with the police and the National Works Agency to give them the coverage that they need to get through the traffic and also to make sure that they are safe. Johnson's petroleum networks remain stable and functional. No major infrastructure damage, and they also have stations and deliver fuel around the island. JUTC, 175 buses in service across Kingston Metropolitan and Portmore, and several more are being prepared for rural routes as the roadways open. JUTC has played a vital role in relief efforts, as we know, and they continue to work with the health workers, security forces, and emergency personnel. I will also indicate that we have taken a decision today to suspend the introduction of the rural school bus fares that were supposed to be implemented on November 1st at $50 per trip to the end of November in the first instance, as everybody has been affected by the storm, hurricane, in one way, shape, or form. Norman Manley International Airport, as we know, reopened less than 48 hours after the storm and continue to bring in significant relief flights and commercial flights. We had a record on Saturday, which outdid ordinary times, where we had 77 flights in one day. 30 of those were relief and 47 were commercial flights. So that is very, very good news. Montego Bay Airport opened back for commercial traffic on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. and had opened from Thursday for relief flights. The relief flights are coming in fast and furious, and there is no shortage of supplies in terms of getting supplies into Jamaica for distribution for humanitarian efforts in the relief. So I want to make that very clear. We are streamlining the processes. Prime Minister will speak tomorrow in Parliament. We are streamlining the processes to simplify them, to make sure that international donors and local donors and charities can get through quickly through the required processes at all levels to be able to distribute the well-needed relief items. The toll authority, the tolls were reimposed. The letter I signed this morning, so I suspect they will probably have been imposed already. And we wait to hear from the concessionaires as to what they will do for the people of Jamaica in terms of allowing them to traverse the east-west and north-south highway at hopefully significantly reduced fares, at least in the early stages. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to once again assure you that tomorrow, unfortunately, will be 1 week since the hurricane hit. Seems like 10 years, but the reality is tomorrow will be 1 week, which will be 6 days if you take out the day of the hurricane. And I want people to understand and reflect on that. And when you see what we are trying to do, despite the fact that we are having challenges, obviously, because nobody can prepare properly for a Category 5 hurricane at winds of in excess of 185 miles an hour in some areas. I want to say that we are committed, recommitted, to continue to improve on the systems that we are improving. We are taking good advice from our international charities in terms of how we can streamline and make it more seamless for not only the receipt but the distribution of hurricane relief items. And I want to say that, again, I ask for patience. I ask for the depoliticization of this process, because we need all Jamaica to be a part if we are going to be successful. I continue to ask for not only God's prayers and guidance, but patience of the people despite the challenges that they face and the suffering that they face. I assure you, on behalf of the government of Jamaica, help has started. It's not underway, it has started, and it will improve and improve, and we expect that this week, week 2, will be significantly better than week 1, and every week thereafter will get better and better and better, all in the interest of the people of Jamaica, all of the people of Jamaica. God bless Jamaica.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you for those closing words. Yes, and at Cabinet, as Minister Vaz said, we had JPS come to give us an update. There were a lot of questions from the Cabinet members. Everybody was asking JPS, when will light come back in particular areas? And so the Cabinet got a briefing today, and you are going to get a condensed version of that briefing from JPS, because I know that's who you really want to be hearing from today. So, Mr. Hugh Grant, we invite you to give Jamaica your update.
Thank you, Minister. My heartfelt condolences to the people of Jamaica, our customers, for the lives lost, damage to property, and the dislocation that's happening out there. I had an opportunity to firsthand see the devastation that this record Category 5 hurricane has caused on the nation. Some of my very own employees have been working tirelessly in order to safely restore power. Some has not gotten a chance to go home. A story from one of my linemen said his wife got a seizure when the door and the window was blown off, but he has not gotten a chance to go home and be with her because of the nature of the roads, and he stands committed and is here serving to help to restore power. So I get it. I understand the inconvenience caused by the lack of power. I understand the frustration as some of my very employees are also affected. Let me reassure you, Jamaica, let me reassure you, my customers, that we here at JPS stand committed to work safely 24/7 to get the power restored. So how have we been doing? As of this morning, we restored 206,000 customers. At the time of the incident, we had 550,000 customers approximately out. So we moved from 77% of customers without service to a significant milestone of having just under 50% of customers without service. That is not by chance. It's as a result of our preparation in regards to the system, preparation of the people, and the strong response. I want to say a special thanks to all our partners, particularly my fellow utility providers, Flow, Digicel, the partnerships with the National Water Commission, and also the partnerships with the hospitals. One of the things we have been focused on is the restoration of critical facilities and focus the resources around that. We have made tremendous progress on that front, whereby we have currently 57% of our major hospitals now have power. That's as a result of us moving resources to the supply areas of those hospitals, doing the necessary damage assessment, and facilitating that restoration. Now, what does that look like? We got a call that the Black River Hospital was having some issues, and patients were evacuated to the Mandeville Hospital. and Mandeville Hospital has some issues with their generator. We then worked to get power into Mandeville Hospital, given how critical that was. And I'm pleased to share with you that that was achieved and the Mandeville Hospital now has power. We committed to restoring power to Kingston and St. Andrew North and South, St. Catherine, Portmore, and St. Thomas, 90% by last night. I have some good news for you, my customers, my people. We have exceeded those restoration levels, whereby Kingston and St. Andrew are now at 95% restoration. Portmore is now at 95%. St. Thomas is at 95%, and St. Catherine is at 90%. So one may ask, where are some of the areas that are currently out? In St. Catherine, you have areas of Spanish Town, Guyshill, Bogwalk, and Central Village that are currently out, and we are working 24/7 to have your power restored within the next 2 weeks. In Portmore, you have areas of Bridgeport, Gregory Park, Hellshire, Greater Portmore, Waterford that are out, and we are working 24/7 to have your power restored in 6 days. In KSA North, you have areas of Kingston 7, 9, 6, Kingston 8, 19, Mavis Bank, Garden Town, Golden Spring that are out. Also, some areas in Content Gap. And we are working 24/7 to have your power restored within the next 14 days. And the areas in St. Thomas that are out, Golden Grove, Hagley Park, Hagley Grove, Morant Bay, Cedar Valley, that's the 5%. We're working to have your power restored within 10 days. And KSA South, Kingston 11, Kingston 10, 13, Kingston 1, 2, and also some areas in Bull Bay, we're working to have your power restored in 3 days. We're working 24/7 to have your power restored. Now, in order for your power to restore, we need to do our damage assessment. A critical component, as Minister Vaz said, is the reality that the high voltage transmission lines, which are the backbone of the system, more than 70% are out of power due to the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa. I had a chance to do a helicopter patrol, and our steel lattice structure, which is one of our more hardened facilities, was twisted and on the ground just due to this devastation. But we were working to do damage assessment. Once the damage assessments are completed, we will then be able to give you more clearly what are estimated times of restoration. We stand committed to keep you updated. We understand the inconvenience, and help is on the way. We have now pulled the trigger to bring in an additional 100 line workers based on our retainer contracts with companies in North America, from Canada and from the USA, and those 100 overseas line workers are expected to be here by the end of the week. We also are bringing in additional equipment because our local resources in terms of bucket trucks and pole digger trucks are exhausted. So we're bringing in on barges additional bucket trucks, more than 50 bucket trucks, more than 10 digger trucks, so that when the workers come in, they have the equipment required so that they can safely and optimally restore customers. I stand committed to let you know and to give you hope that we will get through this through strong partnerships, through strong collaboration, and you have my commitment that I'll continue to keep you informed of our progress. Be safe and be well, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks to JPS. There were some encouraging numbers today. I think the one that was very encouraging was usually in a hurricane after, especially a Category 5, the entire country would go down. But this time, right after the hurricane and during the passage, 20% of their customers still maintained electricity. So that's definitely an improvement over last year. But obviously, everybody wants to know when they will get their electricity back. We've heard that they're doing damage assessments. Minister Vaz is working with them every single day asking for updates, and we should be hearing somewhere in another week. As you hear, they will be coming to Cabinet every week to discuss where they are with getting back electricity. It is a priority of this country. The entire country needs to get electricity back. All right, now that we're on utilities, the other big one is water. And I'm going to ask our Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change, the Honorable Matthew Samuda, to now come and give his update.
Thank you, Minister Dixon. Good afternoon, colleagues, cabinet ministers, heads of agencies, permanent secretaries, members of utilities, members of the media, certainly those listening and watching at home. The NWC systems have been severely impacted by the passage of Hurricane Melissa. The primary issues that we face impacting water supply at this stage in many areas include high turbidity, internal electromechanical issues, external power supply outages, and infrastructure damage. We can report, if this will oblige, that the situation as it stands now, we've had 631 systems disrupted, with 132 systems currently active, giving you the grand total of 763. However, this is to be understood in the context that the systems that we have brought up and ensured are active at this stage in line with priority are your largest systems. So this map would show an idea of where there is particular disruption, obviously disproportionately to the west, the red dots being the disrupted systems, the green dots being the ones which are currently active. Now, that would give a particular view in terms of the level of damage and the level of disruption. But you juxtapose that against the fact that 65% of the NWC's customers have actually been restored, because the systems that have been brought back into activity are indeed our largest systems. So for instance, we can report that the Constant Spring system, which feeds from the Hermitage Dam, has indeed been restored and is operating from JPS power. We can report the same for the Mona and Hope systems, which obviously move the numbers significantly. Now, I will take the time to go pretty much in a circle around the country just to give some information so that those here have a feel of exactly where we are and what we're likely to see by way of customers coming back on stream over the next 3 days. We are currently operating from the Tullow Springs, which the Tullow Springs system contemplates wells and water sources all the way to Bybrook in Linstead. That is the corridor that supplies southern St. Andrew, Portmore, and the majority of St. Catherine. We're operating at around 30%. We're working very closely with the JPS. We would have completed clearing the roadways to our pumping facilities yesterday, and we expect that this system will be connected to JPS this evening, which will bring back over 80% of customers in St. Catherine. There is some disruption, and I'll just briefly get on to St. Thomas. There is some disruption in many of your small systems in St. Thomas because the rivers are in spate and there is a fair amount of turbidity. But we are happy to report that the largest system, which in Morant Bay, which is a Springfield system, is indeed operating using one of our generators, and we continue to bring on the small systems. Now, one thing before I move on to the other parishes, it's important to note that the majority of your customers, in line with the population distribution, are indeed living on the plains that go right around the coast. So when you bring on those large systems on the flat, you're able to bring on a lot of people very fast. One thing that is consistent, and as I just give you a glance back at the graphics, and I need people to understand that that many of the systems that have come back on stream are indeed the ones that are able to gravity feed water to the plains. Anywhere there's need for a lift station where there's no energy, those particular pumps as a sub-part of a system are not yet up. To understand, as we move further west, in South Clarendon, one of your largest systems is the Kemps Hill system. That is currently down, but we are working with the JPS and we expect to have that back up this evening. That will have significant positive impact in communities like Rocky Point, Minister Charles, and we expect that to happen as at this evening, further moving us toward our goals. The entire northern Clarendon belt is out, both because of turbidity and because of energy source. In Manchester, we are almost at total outage, except for the porous and broadleaf to content system. This was brought up as a matter of urgency in partnership with NWC and JPS to ensure that the Mandeville Hospital is indeed being served by 24-hour water. The gutters and pepper system, which, yes, though in St. Elizabeth do serve the majority of Manchester, are indeed down, and there's simply no generator large enough to facilitate those pumps. We are in the process of actually procuring one as a part of our resilience building strategy. We started that process after Hurricane Beryl, but that is down and that will require JPS's systems. We're working with them and we're helping them to clear the roads along the line and the pathways that allow for those connections. The two major systems in northern Manchester, this being a geographic region which affects has some impact in Trelawney and Western Clarendon, are also both down awaiting power. But we are able to report that the old pepper well, which serves from Goshen to Santa Cruz, is running on generator. It is running in 8-hour increments, and it is serving that entire corridor. So they're getting between 16 and 20 hours of water between Goshen and Santa Cruz currently. In Luana, as we move further west, we would have installed a generator 2 days ago. They're now getting 8-hour increments of water, getting between 18 and 20 hours of water in that area. In Darlin Toba, which is a critical one because that's what facilitates service to the Black River Hospital, a generator is currently being installed on site, and that will restore water supply to the community and town of Black River. But more important, well, particularly important, is to the hospital as well as to the stations for the emergency crews that are operating in that space, as well as a police station, etc. As you move into Westmoreland and Hanover, and there is a fair bit of integration between systems, we are also happy to report that the Logwood system, which is in Hanover, but services all the way to Negril, that has been operating and continued to operate right throughout the storm. So Negril actually has water and has had water pretty much through the duration of the disaster. The hilly communities along that corridor are obviously not being served because we don't have power to those lift stations. Bluefields is indeed in operation, having worked with JPS to bring that system back on. So Bluefields to White House, we can also report that they currently have water supply, certainly along the plains. The Roaring River, which serves Sav and indeed Darliston, is out, but we are working to, we are serving the Noel Holmes Hospital, which is also served by this system by trucking, and we're monitoring it very closely in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. Now, as you move around to the north coast, this is where we've had a particularly unfortunate level of damage. So if you understand from Lucy to Martha Brae, if you think of the geography in that area, it's served primarily by two major systems. This is the Great River system, which is very close to the boundary of Hanover and St. James, and the Martha Brae system. In the case of the Great River system, the intake pipes were washed away during the storm, creating significant damage to the plant, and we are, obviously hampered with returning supply because of this. However, we are happy to update that contractors have been on site now for some 36 hours. Their crews working 24 hours a day. We are targeting restoration, temporary restoration, because we'll have to do a more permanent fix after, but we're targeting temporary restoration by Friday midnight. So we are expecting to restore the Great River system by Friday midnight. This is in collaboration with JPS, but we also wish to advise that coming post-burial, we had put in place redundancy there, so that plant can be run fully by generator as well. So once the intake pipe construction is indeed complete, we'll be able to restore that, which will have a significantly positive effect on everything from Lucy pretty much to central St. James. As it relates to the Martha Brae system, the Martha Brae system is actually up and can provide between 15 and 20 million gallons of water a day. However, in the area of Lilliput, in the vicinity of Lilliput, with the road collapsing and the sea level rise in that area, it would have displaced pipes significantly. So there is a break in the line, and anyone who has followed the stories of the breaks in that line, which is why we have the Western Water Resilience Project, which is under contract and has been mobilized, and the work has indeed started. But that line break has caused a significant disruption in the supply from Lilliput to Terminal Reservoir, which is pretty much the entire eastern side of St. James. That work would have commenced this morning and will run in 24-hour shifts. We are targeting completion by Thursday morning. That would restore water in the interim to all of St. James for at least 8 hours a day, because we will send the water further than we usually do from Terminal Reservoir going further west until the Great River system comes up on the weekend as well. That will move us much further from, certainly from the 65% of customers that are connected now, hopefully in the range of 80%, especially with what we're doing with Tulloch Springs, which will bring on St. Catherine, and certainly the work that's happening in Clarendon. Now, that's not meant to diminish anyone who is not in the 80% who is waiting on water, and we are working with JPS on many other systems. The impact in Trelawney, certainly southern Trelawney, which is very hilly terrain, they are facing almost total outage at this time, and we are working to restore their particular pumps with JPS. As you move further east into St. Anne's, into St. Anne, we have procured the services of a generator that will run the Minard wells. That will manage pretty much most of the western side of St. Anne, which is a pretty important system. It serves approximately 30,000 customers. Though that generator is actually en route to St. Anne now, we have completed clearing the road into the Minard wells, which was significantly blocked with the help of NWA rather, and we expect to have that installed sometime tonight for water to come from that area. The Bogue system, which, yes, there's more than one Bogue in Jamaica, for those who are not aware. The Bogue system in St. Anne is immediately above Duns River. That system is indeed operational and has been operational since Thursday of last week after we brought it up. It is a significant system. It means that everything from Runaway Bay to Port Maria on the plains that doesn't require a lift station currently has water. And that is something that we're happy to report. Your major systems in St. Mary, in Aguata Vale, and indeed Itabaral. Itabaral is a particularly important one because it serves not just sections of St. Mary, southeast St. Mary. It stretches as far as Buff Bay in Portland. So that is a particularly important one. We have generators en route to the Itabaral system, and we're working very closely with JPS to bring the Aguata Vale system up, which would stabilize central St. Mary. And I'm using geographic terms here today, not political constituencies. As you move into the eastern end of the island, the disruptions of power are indeed significant, but we do have 3 generators which we expect to be deployed by close of business tomorrow in Portland, including in Port Antonio, which will stabilize the townships of Portland tomorrow. Now, that's a general overview of where we are. We have, and I will give you the update, we have currently over 43 major generators running, and we have some 40 that are being deployed over the next 72 hours based on the assessments and the state of particular pumping stations. Now, we've made the decision, certainly, even where generators would have been installed at particular treatment plants with the intention of them being permanent, that certainly once JPS assures us that an area is stable, we will uninstall if we must and move them further west to significantly improve the water supply situation for public health and sanitation in the worst affected parishes. I do want to bring a few other matters to your attention. As it relates to trucking, we have put in place a few steps that we believe will help with getting water to those who are most affected and least likely to see the return of water fastest. The first is that we're running generators at all of our loading bays that are affected by power supply. That means where there are generators, we're able to fill trucks 18 hours a day. Where we're connected to JPS, we're filling 24 hours a day. We have suspended charging private truck owners who do access these loading bays to ensure that everyone is able to get water as quickly as is possible. We have gone further. We have engaged in excess of 100 private trucks that are working with NWC's fleet of 32, and we're doing our best to serve the communities that are most affected. This afternoon, members of Parliament will all receive a letter from my office with allocations for trucking. Where they are able to find private trucks, they will be able to engage them to ensure that their most affected communities or least likely to be restored fast, they're able to respond to. These allocations will be between $1 and $2 million, depending on the level of disruption in their respective areas. We're also ensuring that at treatment plants in the affected treatment plants and pump houses in the affected areas that have power and that are operating, we're putting in a host of temporary standpipes for those who can get to those areas to fill containers to be able to get water. These will obviously be temporary, but certainly, for instance, in the case of a plant like Martha Bray, we'll put in 100 filling stations so that those who are in the hilly interior but within driving distance can come and get water for the reprieve that they need. We are working actively also with the team at the Ministry of Water, and indeed with suppliers. We intend to increase on an emergency basis our fleet of trucks to continue to serve the public better during this challenging time. But we are working very closely with JPS. We do remain open to suggestion, we remain open to your prayers, and we are working to ensure that we get to 80% by this weekend of customers. And we are going to work around the clock to move from 80 to 100%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You heard that, 80% by this weekend. And you saw the numbers for Westmoreland, 35.7%, where, Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth are really ground zero, and they are getting water back. I mean, we have to thank NWC Minister Samuda. You've been doing a lot of work, and I hear you talking about all of those subsystems and knowing all of them so intimately. You're really good at what you're doing, and so thank you, Minister. Thank you to the entire NWC team. I know Jamaica is grateful. We can do without a lot of things, but we can't do without water, and so thank you. All right, up next, we have Minister Morgan, Robert Nesta Morgan, our minister that is responsible for works, to come and talk about the work that's being done to clear the roads and get us access to those people who are currently marooned. Minister Morgan.
Thank you very much, my sister, Dr. Dana Morris Dixon. Thanks to members of the public service, the private sector, members of the media. I see we have a very healthy turnout. Hi, Dion. It's good to see you at the OPM press briefing. Haven't seen you in a while, but thank you very much for coming. I want to give an update on the work that we've been doing regarding the clearing of roads, and just general updates as to what we're doing to provide access to the various disaster areas. And as usual, take your questions as it relates to the issues that have been raised in the press conference. So in my last updates, I would have told you that one of our priorities, or at least our main priority, is to provide a corridor for persons to be able to bring relief supplies, especially to the western parishes that have been severely impacted. we have been extremely successful in creating that corridor. We now have a good corridor from the border of St. Elizabeth all the way to Savannah-la-Mar, and we have a corridor from St. James coming through St. Anne Trelawney all the way to Savannah-la-Mar on the other side. The challenge, however, is that we created single-lane access initially, but the quantity of vehicles almost tripled within a day, and which is understandable. There are many persons who have loved ones in the region. There are persons who have recognized the disaster that took place and wanted to assist persons in the area. What that resulted in is significant traffic jams, especially in areas such as the Bogwalk Gorge and sections of Westmoreland, particularly in the Ferris area. We then decided that we had to expand the corridor a bit to create more two-lane access. And that's something that we were able to some extent, do over the last 2 days. We also had to work hard to ensure that heavy-duty trucks, such as gas trucks and oil tankers, are able to traverse the entire corridor. And yesterday we completed removing several impediments which would have prevented those heavy units from traversing the area. That corridor is not the only corridor. Work continues in sections of Trelawney, sections of St. James, sections of Manchester, and other areas that have been impacted, and areas across the rest of the island, such as Clarendon and other parishes, St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, which would have had challenges due to rain, wind, landslides, and so on. So, to give you an update on the main corridors that have been opened so far, Ocho to Port Antonio to Morant Bay to Kingston, Kingston to Aguata Vale via the Junction Road, Mandeville to Santa Cruz to Black River, Black River to White House, as I said, White House to Savannah-la-Mar, Savannah-la-Mar to Negril, Savannah-la-Mar to Montego Bay, and Montego Bay to Ocho. I would have driven that entire corridor from Mandeville, from Kingston to Ocho yesterday, ending last night, and it is drivable. We also drove through the Hanover section. So you have two sections. You have the Negril section, and you have the Hanover side that goes through Long Lane. Those two corridors are drivable. The one through Hanover Hills is a bit Long Hill. Grange Hill, sorry. It's I drove on so many roads, I don't remember the names. That one is a bit challenging for heavy-duty trucks, but small units can manage it. We have also cleared Vauxhall to Arcadia. Well, no, my apologies. I am now listing where works are actively being done. Vauxhall to Arcadia, which is flooded. Mountainside to Malvern, which is severed, which means it's cut off. Balaclava to Keesham, which we are now assessing to start work, as well as Aberdeen to Quickstep, we're assessing. There is some damage on Hodges to Speculation. We're removing fallen trees as we speak in Newton to Magotty. There's flooding on Siloa to Magotty. Knoxwood to Burn Savannah is also flooded, and in Manchester, we have several flooded roads which we have to wait until the flooding recedes. And that's Alligator Pond to Guts River, Williamsfield to Mile Gully, and Newley Road is also flooded. And there are landslides still to be cleared. Dump to Moravia, Christiana to Ashton. We have some challenges in the St. Andrew area as well. Guava Ridge to Mahogany Vale. We have a damaged ford and some landslides that need to be addressed. And we're addressing landslides in Red Light to Hardware Gap, Bull Bay to Bloxborough, and in St. Catherine, we're addressing landslides in Sport Park to Post Road, Bartons to Ginger Ridge. We have a peculiar issue in Spanish Town to Bogwalk, where there are some pole lines that are on the ground, and we had closed the roads, and we're approaching the police because there are persons who have removed the closure and are seeking to extort motorists. So that is something that we have to address. There are several other updates that we will be publishing. Most of the challenges that we face in terms of opening roads is flooding, significant landslides, and in some cases, falling trees. We are working with the Jamaica Public Service Company. We have worked out an arrangement where on a daily basis we are engaged with them in a meeting where we are clearing and there are JPS poles. We work together to remove those poles or relocate them. So one of the issues that, and I want to remind persons, is that if you don't have any business in the western end of the island, please do not go. The traffic pileup is actually creating a risk to persons' lives. Our inability to efficiently transport relief supplies to the region because of persons coming out of their vehicle and sightseeing and doing selfies, as we saw over the last several days, is creating a significant traffic pileup. And if there is blockage in, let's say, Holland Bamboo, then the relief trucks cannot come out. So those are just some of the updates that we want to give. Last thing I want to say is that we have over 100 contractors and equipment owners and operators in this effort, stretching all across the region from sections of St. Ann going all the way to St. Elizabeth. I'll focus on that area because that's the main corridor or the main area of problems. But we also have challenges in other parishes too. We have challenges in sections of Portland, St. Thomas, where we do have the National Works Agency. I see Mr. Vaz looking at me. Yes, Mr. Vaz, I remember. We are working, the NWA is working in other parishes, and pretty much every parish, because the rain event did impact every parish and did cause landslides. The bridge, what's the name of the bridge again, Daryl, that we're building? Craig Mill. We have a fording in Craig Mill that was washed out, which created a challenge for persons to leave. And that is in the eastern side of the island, not where the hurricane fell. So we do have teams all across the island and NWA representatives all across the island doing work. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And that's my update for today.
All right, thank you. As you heard it, there's work happening all over the country. The entire country was affected, and there's a lot of road work that's going on. And again, we thank the NWA team. I saw you all out there doing your work. You're out there until late in the night, and all of the contractors working with you. We're very grateful for that work. All right, now we are going to be hearing from our Minister of Labour and Social Security, the Honourable Pernell Charles Jr. is going to be coming to speak about the relief effort, because his ministry is really central to that, working with our social workers and our donors. And so, Minister, we want to hear a lot from you.
Thank you.
But Minister Mackenzie said it had to be quick.
Yes, very quick. Thank you, Minister. I was to be on the road today and you corralled me to be here. It's important to report. I'll be very quick, just saying good afternoon to everyone. Colleague ministers, this hurricane has tested our nation in ways that we could not have imagined. Being on the ground, walking with the team, you get to truly understand that we have communities completely cut off. We have houses that have been swallowed up. We have lives that have been uprooted in several parishes. And we've seen and we feel the heartbreak of the families and the people that are trapped, those that are hungry, those that are uncertain. But I want them to be assured that we are working assiduously with all of our partners to provide relief as quickly as possible. Yesterday, the brave men and women of the Jamaica Defense Force, supported by our international partners, risked their life to carry out our evacuation missions, rescuing sick and those that are stranded in about 4 areas across the affected zones. And we continue that today with airlifts that have now been activated, rescuing stranded, but also providing now today the drop-off of packages, well-needed packages to those areas that are completely cut off. Now, I want to just acknowledge the tireless work of those who are volunteering, several of whom are coming from all over the country, some not connected in any familial way, but just understanding the impact of this mission and joining in with our parish officers, our social workers, the JDF, the JCF, the fire brigade, to provide support, to provide comfort, and just to share a meal. It's not going to be easy recovering, and I want to report that we still have about, so far, the report is that we have 25 communities that are marooned, and several families that have lost everything. I mean everything. We are coordinating with every available resource. We are working as a lead of the Humanitarian Assistance Committee. I want to acknowledge the CEO of Food for the Poor, who is here on the island, our representatives from the World Food Program, and others, GEM and others who are working with us to get food, water, medicine, and shelter to those who need it the most. We're utilizing our Bell 429 helicopters. We're also using the Chinooks helicopters brought in and Black Hawk helicopters brought in by our partners in the US. And those are assisting us to provide a lifeline to the several Jamaicans that remain stranded through the evacuation process, as well as the packages that are dropped off from the skies while they are on the ground. And we have teams on the ground simultaneously providing ground support. So our JDF team is not only doing airlift, but where we can't go, they go. They venture out in ground operations and have done more than 17 communities between yesterday and today. I want to also indicate that so far, together, we have distributed more than 30,000 food packages and several other hundreds of relief in terms of tarpaulins, water, and other relief supplies. We are collaborating with the private sector, faith-based organizations, government agencies, to ensure that we can ramp up and move now into the next phase, which is beyond just providing the immediate rapid response to now a more strategic and calculated design of a distribution model that will see us supplying exactly what is needed to specific and strategic areas. So it's no more just food package, but for instance, in Catherine Hall and St. James, they may have food packages or still need food packages, but what they need now, based on observation, is cleaning supplies, and as simple as clean drinking water and water to help in cleaning out the homes. So we assess and we analyze, we continue to work with the JDF. We have now received the communication support through Starlink, and that will be placed in all of our parish offices to improve the network of communication, as well as Minister Morris Dixon setting up, as part of our Humanitarian Assistance Committee, support coordination cells in every parish that will see us working as a team to do the distribution. There's much more, but I know that there's a lot that has to be said. So this is just the preliminary information, Minister. We will come with more details later on in the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I know that's an area that many people are asking about, is the food getting to those who need it? And Minister is speaking about how the systems have been refined to make it easier. And you heard there are 3 different avenues of helicopters. One is the JDF helicopters. The second one are the ones that came from the U.S. government. And then the third one, some of our NGOs like World Central Kitchen, they have their own helicopters that they're using to distribute food. So that's a good thing, and we're getting into more of the marooned areas. I know Minister Charles spent a lot of time today getting information from the field in terms of what are the marooned communities and getting them geolocated so that the various helicopter teams can get to people. So we're working, and he is working very hard at mobilizing and getting that system refined even further. All right, so I think I'm on to Minister Mackenzie before our grand crescendo with Minister Grange. So Minister Mackenzie, our co-chair of our subcommittee on our recovery and relief efforts. Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Minister. Let me just make way for the grand lady. That's what you call her. All right, I just have a couple updates I want to give this afternoon, which is important as we continue the recovery efforts. As of today, only a total of 186 shelters remain open across 12 parishes, and there are approximately 2,500 persons within our shelters as I speak. I just want to spend 5 minutes on the issue surrounding the municipal corporations across the country. As you all know, that 7 of the municipalities have been severely affected by the passage of the hurricane, and none of these municipalities have anywhere to conduct administrative activities. We are now making arrangements. We have found a location in St. Elizabeth, and I will be engaging the mayors and other stakeholders to discuss relocation for the remaining municipal corporations. One of the challenges we face also is that a number of staff in these municipalities have their own personal issues, so they can't participate in the recovery exercise. So I'm pleased to announce that the municipalities that has not been affected have now moved into those parishes. A team from KSA has gone into St. Elizabeth, and we are moving teams from Portmore, St. Catherine, St. Thomas, and other communities to cover areas in Western Jamaica that has been severely affected by the passage of the hurricane. I must also make the point that the revenues of the municipal corporation has been severely affected by the passage of the hurricane. And as I speak, at least 30% of our markets have been damaged, some destroyed. I was in Black River on Saturday, and I saw the destruction to a market that is not even 6 years old. It was under our administration that we did extensive repairs to the market. Must also speak about the role of the Jamaica Fire Brigade in this exercise. And so far they have responded to over some 500 calls right across the country. And they're a part of the team that is responsible for the clearing of roads and the necessary things. But the last thing I want to say is that later this week I'll be announcing in detail the full rollout of a national cleanup campaign for the country. This cleanup exercise will include the National Works Agency, TPDCO, the Ministry of Education, and it will be led by the National Solid Waste Management Authority. The purpose of the cleanup, ladies and gentlemen, is for Jamaicans to participate in this national cleanup exercise that will take place right across the country in every communities. The Social Development Commission will be responsible for coordinating community activities throughout. And this will be a call for national duty, for national response. The country will require the full support, the full participation of all Jamaicans in this exercise. And as I said before, I will give further details on this exercise, because a part of any recovery must be keeping our cities, our towns, and our communities clean. I saw some sites on Saturday which I cried inside, because I was in St. Elizabeth even 5 weeks prior to the hurricane, and what I saw was devastating. But this is the time when all of Jamaica, and I'm going to be reaching out to my opposition counter spokesperson to invite her to the meeting to discuss the cleanup exercise, because we are taking a national approach to the cleanup exercise. Those are my brief comments this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. You know, I was hoping you were going to continue and I'd get a chance to come up here and stand up, because I've seen you do that so many times and I wanted to be able to do it to you, but you didn't give me that pleasure. All right. I think where you left Minister Mackenzie on the matter of a national cleanup is really the perfect time for Minister Grange. There have been so many people saying, I want to help, I want to volunteer. And we have a solution, and that solution has been provided by Minister Grange and some wonderful young people. And so please welcome the Honorable Babsy Grange to give you some information on what she has been working on, which is really quite exciting. Minister Grange, it's good to see you and have you here. I keep having the men in the cabinet. It's nice to have a woman beside me.
Thank you, Minister. Colleague ministers, ministry officials and media, as the days go by, we get a clearer picture of the magnitude of the devastation that Hurricane Melissa brought into our lives. We remember and pray for those lost in and those who have been affected by the hurricane across the country. We commiserate with you in this moment of great pain and destruction. Please be assured that the entire country, the diaspora, our neighbors and friends are standing with you. We face a long and challenging road ahead, but we will recover and rebuild stronger by supporting those who have been affected and working together. We thank and applaud everyone who has been doing something to help. Your contribution, even if you think it's small and insignificant, will make a tremendous difference. We have been taught that every act of kindness, care, and compassion makes a difference. And yet we know that there are still many, many Jamaicans who want to help, who want to be a part of this national effort. And we need you to know that is why we are now launching today the National Registry of Volunteers on the Support Jamaica portal, supportjamaica.gov.jm. This registry has now been launched and provides a safe and simple way for you to get involved. Through this registry, you will be able to tell us when you're available to help, what your skills are, as well as what type of assistance you would like to give. Perhaps who wish to assist with food distribution or shelter operations or medical support. Maybe you want to help with cleanup or counseling, transport or administration, whatever your skills are, however you want to help. Just tell us when you sign up to the registry. And I'm appealing to Jamaicans here in Jamaica and in the diaspora to sign up on this registry. Based on when you are available and based on the type of volunteer work that you would like to provide, we will contact you. We will brief, equip, and deploy you in an efficient and coordinated way. And I should mention here that the CVSS and other NGOs have been invited to sign up on this portal, so we'll have a joined up, seamless approach. We will reduce or eliminate duplication and ensure that we get help to those affected by the hurricane. So today, I really make this appeal for everyone to chip in. Volunteer your time, your skills, your compassion, and your care to this important national effort. We're calling on companies, we're calling on the churches and youth groups, clubs, associations, everyone. If there was ever a time when we needed all hands on deck, it is now. So I want you to log on to supportjamaica.gov.jm. Click on Volunteer for Hurricane Melissa and complete the short registration form. It's as simple as that to join the registry of volunteers and get involved. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to turn to the I Love Jamaica fundraising concert series. The magnitude of the devastation is unprecedented in our history. That means that we have to move quickly to secure as many resources as we can to provide the relief that is needed right now. We have launched a fundraising initiative dubbed I Love Jamaica towards providing much needed additional resources to support the National Relief Program. The government of Jamaica, through the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, will be partnering with the entertainment industry in Jamaica and overseas to stage a series of fundraising entertainment events to raise funds for Hurricane Melissa Relief Fund. The target is $1 million initially. Discussions are underway to stage US dollars, $1 million US. Initially, discussions are underway to stage events as follows. In Kingston, we had initially announced a concert to be staged in the stadium car park and mass camp, but we're now doing a virtual concert and telethon on Sunday, November 16, 3:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., and this will be broadcast out of the CPTC studios. Artists, a number of artists have been confirmed, including Chris Martin, Massacre, Najee Boy, and a number of others. We'll announce those later this week. A number of Jamaican artists and artists based overseas, non-Jamaicans, have reached out to us, and they are working out details as to their participation in live concerts in the diaspora or doing endorsement drops to motivate and encourage Jamaicans, etc. In London, we are doing 2 concerts. Thursday, November 13, 7 p.m. to midnight, we are doing a concert of Coco at Coco. And the proposed lineup here is Dizzy Rascal, and for those who don't know, Dizzy Rascal is a major act out of the UK. It will also include David Rodigan and a number of other artists. Wembley Arena has been booked for Thursday, December the 18th, and that event will run from 7 p.m. to midnight. midnight, and the proposed lineup will be announced shortly. In South Florida, Sunday, December 7, a concert will be staged at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And on the same day, there will be a concert at Miramar Regional Park, a lineup to be announced for those. We're also organizing concerts in New York, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C. Other communities have reached out to us, and we are in advanced discussions. I Love Jamaica will feature performances by some of Jamaica's leading artists, as well as appeals by some of our country's most recognizable and influential personalities who will receive donations and pledges during the telethon. The CPL has been in touch with us, and Chris Gale will be the face of their campaign, which will be overseas. So, in this regard, we have invited our former Prime Ministers, P.J. Patterson and Bruce Golding, as well as leaders in various sectors, to assist with the relief and recovery effort. And my responsibility is to coordinate with these eminent figures in Jamaica to ensure that there is communication. I must thank members of the entertainment and sports fraternities for their response so far. I remain grateful that we as a country can always rely on our artists, or creatives, or sportsmen and sportswomen in times of crisis. And I'm really grateful for the way they have been responding to our invitation to participate in this national effort. I now wish to announce that the Red Cross Jamaica will be partnering with the Jamaica Football Federation and the ministry in coordinating and accepting cash donations at the Reggae Boys versus Curacao FIFA World Cup qualification football match at the National Stadium on November the 18th. And the president of CONCACAF will be here for the match. This is one way that the Reggae Boys are assisting with this effort. We continue discussions with our national teams about how they wish to help. We have also been able to rely on our churches and our faith-based organizations. They have traditionally played a significant role in times of crisis, providing comfort and guidance. We have called on the churches, and they have responded like they always do. So I announce today that Bishop, the Honorable Dr. Hera Blair, has been appointed the National Coordinator of our religious and faith-based organizations team to engage and coordinate relief efforts with all religious and faith-based groups, including the Rastafarians, the Revivalists, the Muslim, the Hindus, the Baha'i, and others. I also wish to use the opportunity to acknowledge the presence of Bishop Blair and Bishop Bengucci, who will be later on blessing us before we end this press conference. I will be meeting with umbrella heads on Tuesday morning to plan with them the way forward. There is much to do, and we are pleased with the response so far. We will get over this, ladies and gentlemen. We will recover and rebuild better than before. I also want to mention here that the South Florida Hard Rock Stadium event on Sunday, December 7 in Miami will be led by Shaggy, and further details will be announced. I want to thank you all for being there to give support and exposure to what we are doing, and to say that all is welcome, including the media, to volunteer. You get into spaces where people are saying, we don't see anybody. Once you're going there, we're asking you to also volunteer to be a part of this effort. Thank you so much. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much. very much. I told you it was going to be a grand crescendo, and it was. And I thank you so much, Minister, for being here and the work you and the team have been doing to mobilize different communities, the church, the entertainers, the sports stars. Everybody is a part of it. And then having that volunteer program on supportjamaica.gov.jm. If you want to volunteer, and I know many do, please go and register so that you can be selected to support around the country. All right, we're on to questions, and I see one hand up from before, before we opened. Oh, you're gonna, okay, he's yielding.
Yes.
You're
Sorry.
yielding? Okay, all right, he's yielding to
right.
Dion.
Before
It is
we-
so good.
Yes. Before we get to Ms. Jackson, just a reminder, once you ask your questions, the camera operators are asking that you remain standing until your questions have been addressed.
Okay.
Thank you, Dion Jackson, TVJ. Minister, billions of dollars are going to be coming in terms of relief. Why have we not yet heard the announcement of an independent oversight committee to include, for instance, private sector, civil society, and opposition members to monitor the expenditure that is going to be done along with regular reporting to Parliament? What we don't want is an Auditor General's report 6 months after the fact.
Whoopsie.
I have a whole heap of questions. I'll just ask a couple and yield to my colleagues.
Sure. All right, please
May I
continue.
continue?
Give me two more. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, second, I heard everything. I've been hearing everything that's been said. However, the national response, the immediate national response, has been slow and inadequate. The government has been acting as if it didn't know the kind of damage that a Cat 5 would have done. Why have we not seen immediate deployments of mass aid to the affected communities, along with things like immediate erection of warehouses to hold such aid, immediate erection of mass shelters and or evacuations? And then finally, for now, why had we not seen an equivalent in-time response to Westmoreland as there was to St. Elizabeth, seeing that that was where the eye of the hurricane made landfall? So it was obvious that there would also have been catastrophic damage there.
All right, thank you. Those are three questions. And Dion, it's good to have you here. Not used to having you at my press briefings, but I'm glad to have you. And those are questions you hear floating around, and I'm glad that we get a chance to answer them. You asked about a committee with the funds that are coming in. Yes, we're going to get some insurance payments from CRIF and some of the other policies that we have. I think tomorrow you need to listen out for the Prime Minister's announcements. There will be a body that will be overseeing that reconstruction work. That will happen, and the Prime Minister will name the members of that. There has been discussions, even with the leader of the opposition, about whether or not that could be the National Partnership Council. Because remember, we have a National Partnership Council that has the opposition there, that has civil society, has academia, has private sector there. So it's a broad group of individuals that are in that partnership council. So one consideration is to use that partnership council that already exists with all of the key players and partners as that mechanism at the top. And it's going to be broader than just looking at how the funds are being paid. That committee is the one that's going to have to say, how do we build back? You know, we have communities that are close to the sea. What does rebuilding look like? Should we rebuild there? Should we rebuild somewhere else? And so there are big questions that we have to confront with as Jamaica. And the commitment the Prime Minister has made is that there will be an overarching body, whether you use an existing mechanism like the Partnership Council, or you use something that's new, a new body, but there will be an oversight body. Now, I left Cabinet early before it finished, not sure where they would have reached on it, but there has been discussions already in Cabinet on that one. The second one is about the immediate response being slow. I know Minister Vaz wants to answer, but so you can come forward, Minister Vaz. But as you come, just noting that a Cat 5 is a different category of a hurricane. And the devastation was significant. And as we've seen with many disasters around the world, and we've been looking at disasters around the world, how quickly you get to mobilize there is always that period of assessing what is happening and getting the aid in. Yesterday, I saw Red Cross, I saw GEM, I saw the World Food Program out, and all of those are coordinated through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And so there is a lot more happening, and you hear about the helicopters dropping food. It is, you know, after a hurricane like that, you have to assess and then reestablish new systems to get food out. And I think the team has been doing that. And I know Minister Vaz can tell you more about what has happened. And in terms of Westmoreland, everybody is important and everybody is being focused on. The Prime Minister went out for 2 days straight and he went to all of the affected parishes. He went to St. Elizabeth, he went to Westmoreland, he went to Trelawney, he went to St. James, and he also eventually went to Manchester, and he went to Hanover too. So those first 2 days after the hurricane, the Prime Minister made sure to go to all of the most affected parishes. Minister Vaz.
So I'll answer one aspect of it, and Minister Mackenzie will answer the other. There is a committee that has been named with Senator Keith Duncan and Minister Audrey Marks to coordinate with private sector. That has been going on in earnest. We met all weekend. There is warehouse spacing that has been found in Montego Bay. There's warehouse spacing that has been found outside of what the government apparatus has. I would say we are probably up to 300,000 square feet of additional warehousing that is going to be needed, because we're going to be staging from Montego Bay and Kingston, because that's where the two international airports are. I want to remind you who asked a question, and I want to remind Jamaica, tomorrow will be 6 days, because the hurricane hit on a Tuesday. So 6 days is where we are now. And I can say to you that we have not only engaged the full private sector, and they are fully supported with their assets, with their money, and with their expertise, on top of which all of the international organizations and charities who have done this kind of thing all over the world are also at the table. We met for hours on Saturday, and they have done an assessment as to where we are and what we need to do. We cannot bypass the government systems and structures that are in place, but we can take advice and we can use them, and we are intending to do that. You will see a huge improvement this week, and you will see getting better every day going forward. This government is committed, this government is competent to deal with it, and we know our limitations as a government and of course a structure, and we will get the support internationally and from the private sector jointly to deal with this in a comprehensive way, that at the end of it, when we rebuild, we'll be rebuilding for the future and fixing a lot of what problems there were for the last 60 years.
I just want to respond on the comments around the shelter and the relief supplies. I want to make it clear that prior to the hurricane season, all the municipal corporations meet with the ODPEM and the various agencies. There's a humanitarian committee of the National Disaster Council which meets almost every week. Relief items was placed in all parishes across Jamaica prior to the event. The parishes that are badly affected, all the facilities were destroyed during the hurricane. So it is not that the government did not. We have always placed relief items at strategic points across the country. Mount Pelier is a massive warehouse in Montego Bay, but access to the facility has been impeded because of the road conditions. And I want to make it abundantly clear that this administration is not incompetent, and we were responsible, we were proactive in preparing the country. Nobody can plan for a Category 1 or a Category 5 hurricane. Nobody can. And I am saying without fear of contradiction that the government was prepared. We provide the necessary notice to the people. We say to the country that this thing is coming, take the necessary precautions. We could not control God's hand.
All right. Thank you. You wanted to add something, Minister Vaz?
No, I just wanted to add, just for clarity, that the first field hospital was delivered to the West yesterday and should be up and running, if not tomorrow. Plus, we have several more that are coming. For water filtration plants, all of those are underway. We have, the world is helping us. Every country across the world and organizations, because they love Jamaica. So we have the support. What we need to do is just channel it and make sure that we maximize the efficiency of the implementation.
All right. Our next question. Minister Charles wants to add something quickly to this,
Yes.
the questions that came before.
Just to indicate that the matter of disaster preparedness is something that has to be very strategic. What the Ministry of Labour and Social Security did is one of the examples where we actually, before the hurricane, worked with the JDF to move several of our items out of the warehouse up to Upper Camp to keep them safe. It's one of the reasons why, despite pre-positioning thousands of packages across the country, particularly in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and others, we couldn't do all, because you have to contemplate the fact that as a Cat 5, it will actually affect your warehouse and your shelters, as it did for some of the things pre-positioned in Westmoreland, where it was so bad that we lost some of the items. So the reality is we have a very strategic approach, which includes working with our humanitarian assistance partners. We have 6 mobile storage units across the country now from the World Food Programme, another 8 on their way, which will make 14. The Food for the Poor also have massive containers that they are strategically positioning in close proximity to the areas that are greatly affected. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security and government are working also to expand our storage and to expand our production of packages. And we have pushed those out in delivery with our partners. We have right now, Minister, a compilation of perhaps more than 40,000 packages. When you look on the bulk items that we have, that will be available to us over the next 2 to 4 weeks. So I say that to say that it's not just quick response. We do have rapid response, but it's not just quick response. It's strategy towards long-term recovery.
Thank you. I think the mic was right there. Okay.
Right. Thank you. Minister Charles, you spoke about, in your presentation, about persons who were hungry. I've heard of persons who are going 2-3 days or more without food. And obviously, the clock is ticking. And for the communities that are marooned, you mentioned 25 communities. Can you give us an appreciation of the timeline within which the government intends to take these relief packages to these persons who desperately need them? That's the first question. In terms of the oversight mechanism, my colleague spoke about a broader framework. But during the COVID pandemic, I remember the government established a special committee of parliament, and I think the people's representatives are very important in this respect. A special committee of parliament was established to provide oversight for the COVID process. So I'm wondering if, without reinventing the wheel, if the government is already considering establishing such a committee where all the stakeholders and all the persons who are involved in the relief effort could be invited to Parliament to speak to the people's representatives and to deal with questions of accountability and the spending of money and so on. And the final question would go to the Minister with responsibility for works. You have spoken extensively about the main corridors and efforts to clear those. But for the areas that are marooned, could you give us an idea as to when you'll be able to make inroads in some of those communities? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for those questions. Minister Charles, I think you're the first one. Food for those that
Thank
are
you.
marooned.
Thank you for that question. I just want to indicate that, as Minister McKenzie alluded to, one of the issues that caused and still will impact the delivery of packages is access. And so it's actually why you might have seen, I wouldn't say focus, but perhaps presence in some areas more than others, access and connectivity. That's contrary to what some may believe. Our social workers, the JDF soldiers and partners were out in every parish immediately after, even in parishes where there was no connectivity and therefore you weren't hearing as much or seeing as much. But obviously, where there is a difficulty in access that impedes the ability to move. We are using airlift. We have the ability through our 429 helicopters to do at least 12 drops and perhaps 2 drops each with the Chinooks and the Black Hawks that we have from the American partners. That's 22 drops in total in terms of airlift. On the ground, the JDF is consistent and have been working to do at least hundreds of drops in terms of packages, depending on the terrain and depending on the unique circumstances for each community that we confront. And it is different in every community, believe me. There's a myriad of situations that we have to confront. What's important is to note that we continue at this stage now to expand beyond just the immediate rapid response to the design of a very carefully calculated distribution channel, which will see us working with partners to make sure that we have consistent support, consistent delivery, consistent channels to get the food, the water, the cleaning supplies, and whatever else is needed to those persons who need it the most.
All right, thank you very much for that response, and hopefully you got an answer there. The other one was about the main corridors and the Committee of Parliament. Minister Morgan, you want to come for the main corridors? Just in terms of the Committee of Parliament, as I said, I missed Cabinet, but there are many options being looked at, and we obviously COVID was a great example of how we can do things going forward, and so we've actually been looking back at the COVID experience to see what worked and what maybe needed to be tweaked, and so Cabinet is discussing what's the best approach for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morris Dixon. The first thing I want to say to answer your question is that I think we're at what, day 5 or 6?
6.
We're at day 6 of the disaster. And I want to contextualize what we have done. We've been able to move significant heavy equipment from all across the island and concentrate them between St. Elizabeth and Trelawney. That if you draw a line from Ocherios all the way down to the border of Manchester and St. Elizabeth, we've been able to move front-end loaders, excavators. Not only have we been able to move them, but we have been able to get a lot of the persons who own them to give us them without even a discussion about how much you're going to be paid for it. The second thing we've been able to do is we've been able to create a corridor between Manchester and St. James. So in the first day or two of the hurricane, there was almost no access because of the significant down power lines, down trees, landslides, and so on. So within 2 days, 3 days, we were able to a great extent. By day 2, we had single lane access to the entrance of Westmoreland. By day 3 and 4, we had single lane access to Sav. By day 5, we had cut through, and now we have joined the 2 routes, Mobe to Sav, Black River to Sav, because we were coming from both sides. If you think of roads as main arteries, then the off-roads are tributaries. In order to start working on the off-roads, you have to clear the main artery. So as we cleared the main arteries, we started going up into the hills. with smaller equipment, because in many cases, a lot of these roads are 8-foot roads. So I can't put a front-end loader. The other issue that we have faced in our recovery is the absence of skilled labor in many cases. So if somebody lost his house, he has no shelter, his family is at risk. Many of those persons are going to be very unwilling to leave their family, to go on the road with a power saw, to spend 8-9 hours cutting. So one of the challenges we've had is finding people in the various locations, because most of the work is chainsaw work. So while we may have a big heavy-duty equipment, we need a lot of men with cutlasses and we need a lot of men with chainsaws. And we've had to be importing men. So for example, because of the crisis in Trelawney in terms of access, the Forestry Department has found 8 sawmen that will be going into Trelawney tomorrow in 4 vehicles going to different parts to try and cut their way through some of the maroon communities. The other issue you have to think about with maroon communities is the issue of safety. So I'll give you an example. We were removing major debris that was blocking gas trucks from going to Sav yesterday. And we came upon a hillside. I don't remember the exact name of the area, but it is before you reach Ferris. And it's between White House and Ferris. And we saw a big stump which was in the road, huge. And we had the excavator start moving it. And the hill started to come down. And we had to basically leave it. So we were trying to create 2 lanes because we only had about 8 feet or 6 feet across. A tanker trailer could not pass that. And we wanted to create a bigger avenue because it was becoming a bottleneck and creating a traffic jam. And we had to leave it because the engineers now have to come and tell us how unstable this hillside is. Because if that hillside goes, there are houses on top of it where people are living in. So the issue is not just go and clear a road, or there are landslides that we have to contend with, there are cutoffs that we have to contend with, there's labor that we have to find to go into these areas. The size of equipment is also important. But it's the work that we have to do, and our commitment to the people is that we are going to get it done. We've done a lot of work over the last 6 days in terms of getting access and allowing the recovery teams to go in, but there's still more to be done, and I'll be the first to admit to you that we have not been perfect, but we have been trying our very best with the resources we have, and as more resources come to availability, as more persons in the private sector give us the availability of their equipment, we're going to put those into the system so we can clear more roads. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you. Oh.
Good afternoon. Sashana Small from the Gleaner. Minister, there are reports that no official was present to receive the Venezuelan delegation that brought aid to Jamaica in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Are these claims true? And if so, why was this particular delegation exempted from this standard process?
All right, thank you for that question. And, we thank the people of Venezuela for the supplies that were sent to Jamaica. It was a significant amount of supplies that we received, and we thank them very deeply. And, it does show us that everywhere, every single part of this world, there are people who are thinking of Jamaica and willing to send us supplies. And so we're very thankful to them for that. In terms of the protocols around receiving foreign delegations, I'll have to ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs. As you would have noted, she has been to almost all of them. Sometimes Minister Vaz has been to some. I've filled in as we are notified. Remember that usually with flights coming in, there is a note through the diplomatic community that we do get, and then that does trigger a set of actions. There may have been some communication lapses there, and I will ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs to talk through what had happened there. But the reality is that we have been very, very thankful for those supplies, and there seems to have been a breakdown in a part of the process. But of course, we are very grateful for all our partners and grateful to Venezuela for what they had sent to us. Yes.
Good afternoon, Minister Morris Dixon. Giovanni Dennis here from CVM TV. 3 quick questions. One regarding security. We've heard reports of persons going into some of these affected areas to offer help being robbed. Heard about an instance in Holland Bamboo at the weekend where over 300,000 worth of supplies were robbed from persons offering help. What, if anything, is being done to strengthen law enforcement in these areas so that that doesn't happen again or become widespread? Two, traffic management. I've heard a voice note from you asking persons not to come in. I've seen several persons on social media urging persons not to come down because of how crowded it gets, and a lot of the areas are single lane. But what, from a traffic management JCF perspective, now is being done to better manage the traffic coming in to some of these affected areas? Because clearly moral suasion won't necessarily do that, because people want to see their families. Or, as you say, unfortunately, sightsee, because I mentioned I saw persons taking pictures. So what is being done about that? And finally, and perhaps most importantly, the marooned communities that we're hearing of now, and we heard about Brighton yesterday, where at least 6 bodies were taken, including a mother and a child. Each of them have a member of parliament and also a councillor. Are each councillors or members of parliament doing enough and updating through the official channels the authority to say, okay, we haven't heard from this community that's marooned, could you do something or check this out? Because it seems to me that people may not be doing what they ought to do, representatives may not be doing what they ought to do, if after 5 days, as we heard yesterday with Brighton in St. Elizabeth, was marooned for 6 days and bodies were there being decayed. What did the representatives do to notify the first responders or the government where that is concerned?
All right, thank you. Those are 3 very good questions. The first one was in relation to security, and I saw the situation in Holland Bamboo yesterday. There were police. I saw many members of the police force that were there trying to assist with traffic management, but there was just way too many people on the road. And I know you want to see your families, I know, but it really hampered things. As I said yesterday, I was trying to help a Red Cross truck that was trying to get to Westmoreland and also to Black River to get through, and it was almost impossible to get them through. It was so difficult. And this is the Red Cross with supplies, and they had medics also with them, and they couldn't get through because of the traffic. So traffic management is important. We're actually looking in cabinet, and before we left, and as I said, I don't have all of the ending of cabinet, there were discussions around whether or not movement should be restricted at particular times, because we also want to be able to get in, for example, fuel trucks into the communities. And you can't do that with the kind of traffic congestion you have in certain parts. And so that's something that's being looked at if we don't get a better handle on the movement of people. We know that there are many Jamaicans who have just packed up their cars and said, I'm going to go down and I'm going to give people things. And that is beautiful. It says that, it shows the Jamaican spirit, let's go help them. Sometimes it's not that helpful when so many decide to do it. And that's why it's also good that we heard from Minister Grange about her portal, because people want to help. And so we're now giving you a targeted way to help, and the authorities can pull down lists of persons who are available for particular activities. But the security question is a big one. And the police force is out, the JDF is out, so you're seeing larger contingencies around. And so it is something that I know the JCF and the JDF have been coordinating on, making sure that there is security. And I saw many cars just stop. You see some people on the side and you just want to help. And I saw them stop maybe to give one person, and then immediately the entire community came out and swarmed the car. I saw that yesterday. And so there's a security risk, what we'd say to individuals. If you come down with things, stop by a church and give it there, offload it there. Stop by the police station, offload it there. They will get it out to the communities. And also, obviously, now you get an opportunity to volunteer through Minister Grange's portal. Marooned communities, you had asked about whether or not the members of parliament are giving information, and you beat me. I was going to add that into it, that Minister Charles and the work the JDF is doing is dependent on the councillors and the MPs getting the information to Minister Charles. And so the JDF has a list, and that list comes from members of the community. Right now, we've been using the social workers in the network. And remember that in each parish has a disaster committee that is chaired by the mayor. Every single parish has that. And so there's a mechanism through which the reports are coming in. If there are MPs or councillors, if you know that there's a community that's marooned, get the information to Minister Charles, because he's coordinating with JDF. Every morning, they do their list of where they're going to do the food drops. We can't do the food drop if we don't know of a community. So it's very important that we continue to feed that information to the relevant individuals.
Television Jamaica. I have two questions.
Sure.
Questions. Going back to the earlier points my colleagues made in regards to aid. And again, having been on the ground myself, I've seen a lot of attention being placed on Black River. And I know that in terms of the access roads, some of the roads are still not clear. Yeah. But I think what we're not getting is the timeline, because some people are in these communities, they have no electricity, no form of communication, and some people have to get the information to them. So in terms of, you mentioned a list, the timeline, is there a timeline for which the worst hit areas will be receiving aid? Because people would love to know.
Oh, that's the first one, yes.
My second question, I got something earlier, I'm just gonna read it verbatim. I was told that in some instances, they have to reduce the amount of packages that they can bring on with the JDF, because some of the ministers want to go down themselves to take photos for Instagram or other forms of social media. Can you confirm whether this is true or it's just propaganda? I just received that as the press conference was going on. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with that one, and that does not sound accurate at all, because I know that the JDF planes have been taking things and dropping them, and I know I haven't been on a helicopter. Most of us are driving. I know there were some surveillance activities that took place that the Prime Minister would have done, and that was publicly said, and I would have said where he was going each of those days. I know on the weekend he did take some things on the plane with him, on a helicopter with him, but the JDF drops are a different thing. The JDF drops, it is all JDF. And JDF goes in the morning, they liaise with Ministry of Labour and Social Security, they decide which areas they go. If they go today, they may not go tomorrow. They may go 2 days after. And so we are getting aid out to the marooned communities, and the ministers are not using the aid drop planes. That's not the case. In terms of timelines, I know that's a key question. I saw a lot of people operating, and there are a lot of entities operating to get food. The real concern, I think, in any area that's accessible, we're getting the aid in now. But it's the marooned ones, which is why we need to make sure we have every marooned community on Minister Charles's list, so JDF is doing deliveries to them. Minister.
Thank you, Minister. At a time like this, we have to remain focused as a country. There are going to be many persons who will use the opportunity to divert our attention to things that are not truly relevant. But I can tell you, as one of the ministers working directly with JDF, I can tell you that every effort, every single sweat and effort is being made to get the resources to the persons who are marooned, and to get every single food, water, tarpaulin, and resource to those who need it the most. There is no country, no developed country right now, no country in the world that could suffer what we have suffered and respond in 1 day or 1 week. I want to applaud the JDF, I want to applaud the JCF, the Fire Brigade, I want to applaud all of the officers and employees and volunteers. In my own ministry in Westmoreland, several of my staff members have lost their home, lost their roof, couldn't come to work. In St. James, you have Miss Loas, who stayed on the second floor and watched her car wash away. Where was she yesterday? She was at the Bogue Industrial Estate, bending down, packing packages. working with me to get back into Catherine Hall in Water Green to deliver those packages to elderly and to others, while she and her family also need. I want to give you some details. Yesterday, we went into Compton, St. Elizabeth, this is JDF, Spring Garden, Trelawney, and Darlington in a 2-in-1 mission, Shady Grove. Today, we went into Darliston in Westmoreland, West Haven in Hanover, again with airlift missions. We completed the delivery of care packages to 97 disabled children. 1 medevac was done for 3 elderly patients with hypertension and diabetes. And we also completed more care package drop-offs in other communities, Maroontown, Adelphi, Jacksontown, Limetree. And again, as I said to you, in terms of the time, it's very difficult. I understand the question. It's a question it's a very good question, because the entire country wants to know, how fast can we do this? Let's appreciate that because of the circumstances, because this is a situation that you could never truly forecast. It depends on several variables, and the duration of completing a drop-off or of providing delivering packages will depend heavily on the assets, on the lift capability. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, while we wanted to do additional lifts, weather did not permit, because it is a very, very dangerous operation. So I say that to say that the country can be at ease in knowing that every effort is being made by all of our partners to make sure that we put full resources focused on the people who need it.
Which parishes you have the maroon communities? Thank you.
I didn't hear you.
Which parishes you have the maroon communities?
Primarily Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, St. James. I believe there are also in Trelawney, and probably one in Hanover. And most of our airlifts so far have taken place in Westmoreland.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Mahiri Stewart, Nationwide News.
Mahiri, you realize you have company today.
Afternoon. So my question regards the support Jamaica.gov JM link. In terms of that being the official channel for persons to send donations to the government in order to aid relief efforts, is there any update the country can get in terms of how much has been donated to that link? And on top of that, in terms of transparency, to prevent us from having to ask the question in the future, is it possible for that total to be placed on the website so that persons donating can be aware of how much is already there?
Sure, and that is going to be done. I got some questions online from regular Jamaicans, and so I'm supposed to be giving updates here, and we're trying to put it online. I'm just trying to find the last number that I got, and it was 10:33 last night. We were at 728,000 US and 38 million Jamaican. So I think we're probably approaching 900,000 US. So we're getting to the $1 million mark on that site.
Good morning, everyone. Jerome Williams from the Jamaica Observer.
Good morning.
Good evening, I'm so sorry. One question.
Yes.
On the road, on the ground, especially in Westmoreland,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people, residents living there, who are complaining that they're living in areas where houses near them have dead bodies decaying at the moment, and this has been the case since the hurricane has hit. The question is, has there been any discussion of a strategy to help to deal with this situation? What advice would be given to people living in these areas who are worried about health, safety, and stuff like that?
It is a health and safety question, but it's also a deeply emotional and psychological thing to know that their body is just lying there. I mean, just thinking about it is really, really painful. And so the JCF, working with the JDF, because sometimes the bodies are in those same marooned communities. So what the JDF has been doing, sometimes they've had to go in via a helicopter to retrieve the bodies. So as soon as we get the indication that there are bodies, the JCF and the JDF will coordinate. Obviously, the JCF will do some quick analysis to find out, was this really as a part of the hurricane, or was this some other nefarious activity that took place? And so they are working, the JDF uses the body bags they have, and they've been going out, and it's been a very painful process. But once we are aware of it, it is passed on to the JCF and the JDF. And if it's a marooned area, if it's not a marooned area, the JCF can easily just go in and retrieve the bodies. But in marooned areas, that's where the issue is. We have to find somewhere to land. First, we need to know about it. And then we need to find somewhere to land the helicopter so that we can retrieve the bodies. And a lot of the ones you would have heard that we have announced, those painful numbers, were actually retrieved by the JDF using helicopters. All right, are there any other questions?
Yeah. My questions weren't answered. I'm going to repeat them and add two new ones. There has been an obvious and concerning difference in the immediacy of response to Westmoreland as compared to St. Elizabeth. I'm asking why, and with the absolute respect, saying that everybody is the same isn't a response to that concern. Secondly, the response that warehouses were pre-positioned before the hurricane doesn't answer my question as to the slowness of the response once the hurricane had passed in getting in aid, in putting in warehouses or whatever it takes, as well as in providing shelter and or evacuation. So those questions have been answered. And then two new ones. One, I'm not hearing an acknowledgement of the fact that there is a crisis in terms of fuel in Western Jamaica, and whether there is some kind of special initiative to deal with that situation. Like all of my colleagues, I've been in the field. I was in South yesterday, in Westmoreland yesterday, saw Senator. The gas stations are mobbed with individuals with containers as well as with long lines of cars. You can't get no gas until you basically reach back to Kingston. I'm not hearing a specific initiative to address that problem. And finally, I am not hearing any indication of what sounds like a bipartisan effort to deal with this issue. The government, just from looking on, seems to have almost entirely shut out the opposition, notwithstanding your comment about an informal conversation over the phone with the spokesman and education minister. We are not hearing or seeing what appears to be a bipartisan effort to deal with this crisis.
All right, thank you for the questions. I'm going to start with that last one on the bipartisan effort. This has to be an all of Jamaica effort, and I think the Prime Minister has not acknowledged that. On the Saturday before the hurricane came, the Prime Minister invited the Leader of the Opposition to Jamaica House to be briefed. He was briefed by Ministry of Labour, was briefed by Evan Thompson. They got several individuals from government briefing on the preparations for the hurricane. A lot of questions were asked. Some suggestions were made in the meeting, and the government took those on board. And I think that's an important signal of intent to have the opposition be a part of the activities. I know that the Leader of the Opposition is in contact with the Prime Minister on a daily basis. I know that that is happening. And so this notion that we're not going to be bipartisan is not correct. We're the government. We have to do what we need to do, and we have to govern. But we also need to say this is a Jamaica effort. You have the church here. We have the opposition that we have said is going to be a part of the oversight body. We have had to be working through a lot of the MPs in order to get aid out. They're very important partners in this. Minister Charles is constantly on the phone with them. Darrell Vaz is constantly on the phone with them. So there is a channel that is open to the opposition, and the opposition is feeding into it. And so we are going to, in our rebuilding, we're going to have everybody on board. The private sector, the opposition is going to be important. And on a sectoral basis, we're going to also have to work with the opposition. And I think that is going to be very clear for everyone to see. And it's not just me, it is the entire government. You spoke about the slowness of the response, the perceived slowness. And you know, the reality is that this was a cat fev, and I'll tell you from my experience being at ODPEM. and doing the briefings every single day. Every day, the path shifted. We were expecting it to enter maybe closer to Kingston, then it shifted to maybe Clarendon, then it shifted to maybe closer to Mandeville, and then as it kept going west, we had those who were praying, oh my goodness, it looks like it's going to miss Jamaica. And then, you know, as it got closer on the morning, and remember the rain started from before, we saw where it was going to probably be parity. And we said, everybody who's in that path, you need to move out of that path. It wasn't until in the morning of the storm that we really had a clearer picture of what this hurricane was doing. This hurricane was not a normal hurricane. In terms of its movement, in terms of it just stalking Jamaica for days, it was not normal. And so it entered where we were not necessarily expecting. And if you go back and look at the reports, you will see that the path shifted quite a bit in the last day in terms of where it would enter Jamaica, and where were people even saying, maybe it's not going to hit Jamaica. And so the warehouses that were there in that path, and even if you go to the day before, even if you look at some of the models, they said Jamaica, it would weaken before it made landfall in Jamaica. That was being reported by the scientists. But it did not weaken. It got stronger right before it came to Jamaica. So that Category 5 devastation, 185 miles an hour wind, that is really, really hard for anyone to plan for. And so the government has had to do what it can do in order to provide the support as quickly as possible. Given our terrain, we're not a flat country, we have mountains, we have rivers. And remember, this hurricane didn't just come with wind. It came with record rainfall, so we had flooding. And so the first thing we have to do in terms of getting to the communities is to open the roads, and that's what Minister Morgan's focus was on. And then after that, it was working with all of our aid agencies and partners to get them into Jamaica, to help them to support us, because they have the international expertise and goods to help us. And so we've done it as quickly as we can. Now, the marooned communities are really the big concern. And we are doing a lot now that we have all the helicopters from JDF and we have from our international partners, we are able to do more food drops than we could before. So there's a lot that has happened, and I want you to talk about fuel too. The fuel one, I'm sorry Minister Vaz had to leave because we were talking about fuel just now.
Minister Vaz has been on my case about since we started clearing. The first priority of access is to create access so that we can reach vulnerable persons, meaning emergency services, whether it be ambulances, whether it be first responders, and so on. So our first priority was not to get heavy-duty tankers into Black River or getting it into Savannah Lamar. So the first priority was single-lane access so that vehicles, SUVs, so on, and people walk foot can go through. That was a very difficult task, especially going through Bamboo Avenue. I don't know if you remember, we had the JDF in there, we had the NWA in there, we had people with cutlasses, we had people intertwined. Bamboo is not something that I can just put a backhoe in and push away, because it's very difficult. So we got through Bamboo Avenue, then we went to places like Middle Quarters, where all the light poles were on the ground, all the trees were on the ground. So we had to cut through that. We had people at Black River Hospital. JDF had to start coming. Now, let me give you an example. All the doctors at Black River Hospital lost their housing because they lived in a community beside the hospital. So the first responders that you had situated in the space who would serve not just Black River, but also Westmoreland, because the other hospital would be in Sav, so you have hospital in Black River, hospital in Sav, and people in between go to each. So our first priority was to provide access to rescue those people. After we did that first single lane rescue, and the NWA was able to create a path to Savannah Lamar incrementally. So the first major town we went to, which is maybe why people perceive that there is bias, is Black River, because Black River is on its way. So we're coming from Montego Bay, we're coming from Manchester. we reach Black River first. We see the damage there. That's the first thing that comes out into the public, right? So everybody says Black River is destroyed. Nobody has yet been able to go to Westmoreland because all the roads are blocked. And even flying over, you would not see the full damage because there's no communication. I did not know the extent of Westmoreland's damage until we were able to get people in and get JDF to fly over Westmoreland. We still haven't reached the tanker issue yet. It is only over the last 2 days that we've been able to confidently tell the gasoline haulage contractors that it is now safe for you to drive to Savannah-Lamar. Because they said they're not driving under any JPS light pole. So we had to work with JPS to remove those light poles. They are not going to drive against anything that could puncture their tanks. So I went yesterday with heavy equipment behind me, not because the NWA is not doing a good job, but because I needed to be confident to convince the ministry that, listen, we can take the tankers now. The other point is, Dion, some of the gas stations are destroyed. The gas station on the coast in Black River does not exist anymore. The only gas station that exists in Black River is the one, that is not in the town. It's on the outskirts of the town. Right? The other gas station is not in a good condition. The gas station in Westmoreland is also destroyed. So the issue you're having is not just the availability of bringing in gas into the community, but also where are you going to safely store that gas? And that's a medium-term problem because you can't just send a tanker in there and park it on the side of the road and say, come and buy some gas. When we were driving through yesterday, we had full tanks of gas. And it was not until we reached Boot in St. Anne that we found a gas station that was open late. Yes, there were other gas stations that we heard were open in the day, but because of the nature of what has happened, because of the lack of electricity that is typical for the entire section of the island, a lot of gas stations are closed early. So those are things that we're going to have to work with. But what I can confidently say now is that for the gas stations that are able to take fuel, the retailers, the haulage contractors are now willing to traverse that area. They weren't confident to travel through Black River, go to Sav before yesterday because there were still impediments on the road. I hope that explains the issue, why gas was so short or has been short. Thank you.
And I'll note that Minister Vaz has a proposal in terms of making things much easier there. And also that was one of the reasons where we were thinking about whether or not we needed to maybe restrict some movement maybe in the night, late in the night, so that the fuel trucks can actually go through late in the night and actually get to refuel where the gas stations are okay. All right, so I know it's been a long day. We're at 5:47 p.m. Thank you. And so as we end, we're very much thinking about all of those who have passed and all those who are suffering. And I know yesterday in the morning before I went into Manchester and St. Elizabeth, I went to church. And one of those hymns was sung, and one of those that makes you very emotional. It is well with my soul. And as it was being sung yesterday at church, I kept thinking of all of those who've lost their lives and those whose families are mourning. When we go to a Jamaican funeral, we sing that. And when you get to that crescendo of that hymn, you feel it all over your body. And so it is important. There are a lot of people hurting, a lot of people who have lost what they feel like is everything. And we know as Jamaicans that we can get through it, but we only get through it with the help of God. And so we're so honored today to have Bishop, the Honorable, or is it Bishop Bengucci? Both of you. Oh, both of you. Bishop Blair and Bishop Bengucci are both going to come and pray for this country as we close out this press conference.
Thank you very much, Minister, and good evening to everybody, or afternoon. Before Bishop Ben Gucci prays, we'd like to make a statement for a couple minutes or so. Like all other sectors of the nation, the religious community has seen the need to answer the call to action. And we want to thank Minister Grange for inviting us to do this. This call is driven by the mandate to show care and compassion that is enshrined in Jesus' command to Christians. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. We as people of faith are constrained to act with urgency that is driven by the enormity of the devastation and the despair that our brothers and sisters now face. We therefore encourage the nation with the news that the faith-based community is being mobilized to show mercy, with the conviction that our approach must be seen clinically, collaboratively, coordinated, and compassionate. First, clinical, we must bring targeted, relevant, and efficient service to the hurricane victims. In this way, our organizational and procedural arrangements must lead to efficient and timely delivery of the supplies and the services that will meet the existing needs. Secondly, collaborative. We are of the certain view that no local church, no denomination, or umbrella group acting on their own will be able to make a meaningful impact on the task that is ahead. Instead, it will take a collaborative approach to effectively manage the scale of the demands. All levels and layers of the religious community are therefore being called upon to come together and work together with the various arms of government. Thirdly, coordinated. A carefully mounted and effectively coordinated machinery is being set up to manage the faith-based release and relief process. As such, we envision and are committed to the establishment of national faith-based coordinated operations that are dedicated to providing relief. And finally, compassionate. The immediate focus and mission of all people of faith must now be to relieve suffering and to bring hope. The people in Western Jamaica do not have the time to wait for us to debate our differences, nor do they have the option of delay. They need our full attention. They need our energies in this their hour of dire need. In this time of national crisis, the faith-based community, therefore, is being called together to partner with the government of Jamaica and all other NGOs to mitigate, to minimize, and where possible, put an end to the suffering of our brothers and sisters and the victims of Hurricane Melissa. We know that the media community has tried before and is trying extremely hard to help us collect and to disseminate the information that is necessary at this time. And we pray that you will be able to continue in this track. And we pray for all arms of government as you really are doing what Jamaicans are expected to be done. And we pray your strength in the Lord as Bishop prays for us.
All right, as we come to a close, I'll just invite us to stand in prayer. As a church community, we have heard of all those who are so engaged. And so we bring before God now those who are engaged as responders, all the various entities that we have heard. We bring them before the Lord because it's not just the physical devastation, but we think of the anxiety, the mental trauma. We think of the psychological situations that will arise. Even the responders themselves who have been affected and who are even engaged in the process, they themselves will need assistance, or JDF, or JCF, or fire brigade members, those who are engaged in correctional services, or health staff, they too will need psychological, they too will need persons to assist them in dealing with the psychosocial effects of this. And so, Lord God, we bring not only those who are physically affected, but Lord God, for the mental and emotional anguish that will arise from this situation, not tomorrow, but in the weeks and the months ahead, and even the years as we rebuild Jamaica, land we love. And so, Lord God, we thank you for our ministers. We thank you, Lord God, whether NGOs, opposition leader and members, that all who are engaged, Lord God, for them, it is also not just time consuming, but Lord God, they are physically and emotionally invested in the process. And they too need, Lord God, to be held in the palm of your hands. For worried family members, Lord, we pray for a sense of calm assurance, knowing that the God who brought us through will continue to keep us. And so, Lord God, we just place ourselves into your hands. Thank you for the work of the Holy Spirit. Thank you for your presence across this nation. Thank you for those who have volunteered to be with us and carry us through, Lord. Thank you for the partnerships. And Lord God, even where there are situations of uncertainty, even Lord God, when things did not go smoothly, help us, Lord God, not to be angry with each other or antagonistic, but to recognize this is the time for brothers and sisters to be united together in rebuilding a country that we love. So Lord, we surrender into your hands and pray for safety and pray for protection. And for those who have not been reached, Lord, you are the way maker. So may you make a way even where there seems to be no way, so that they can be taken care of. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray, giving you thanks, blessed Lord. And we say together, amen and amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
There's nothing left to say after hearing prayers, and so thank you, and God bless all Jamaicans, and especially God bless those who are hurting this evening. Thank you all, and we'll see you again, not tomorrow, but on Wednesday with another press conference.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today.
Come July, your NHT home improvement loan will increase to $3.5 million for qualifying applicants. Your government is caring for you.
BGLC, the regulatory body. We regulate, you play without worry. We regulate, you play. BGLC, fair play when you play. For the fun of the game, you know when they are. BGLC, keep it fair for the player. You play the game and we are the rules setter. Keep everything fair so the game play better. The Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission. We ensure fairness, integrity and responsible gaming practices. Keep the game fair and fun for everyone. We regulate, you play.
Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. No more guarantors for student loan. Your government cares about your education. And we don't want you to ever have to worry about going to university. The Students' Loan Bureau has a loan for you so you can focus on your future.
We know you want better roads in your towns and communities. That is why through the SPARK program, your government is allocating over $40 billion over 2 years to fix your community and rural roads. $20 billion will go towards fixing smaller roads in every area, with $150 million allocated per area. The remaining funds will be distributed based on road length and condition, ensuring areas with greater need receive more assistance. Your government is caring for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Have you ever wondered what happens to your money if a bank or financial institution fails? How secure are your savings in the bank? And what can you do to ensure it is protected? The Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, JDIC, was created for that reason, to protect depositors like you and me. Hi, I'm Suzelle Ray, and welcome to Finance Matters. On today's episode, we will